Have you ever looked at a man in the most private moment, when he finally lets go, and wondered what is really going on inside him right then? Most people assume it's simple, that he is only feeling physical pleasure, that it's nothing more than a mechanical reaction of the body. But that isn't the full truth. What happens for him in that instant goes far deeper than just biology. It isn't only his body reacting, it's his heart, his thoughts, and even his instincts firing all at once. For men, release is often the single most vulnerable moment they go through. Think about it. Men spend much of their lives holding control. From the time they're young, they're told to be strong, to keep themselves together, to not show weakness. But in that one moment, all of that training and pressure drops away. His body is literally telling the truth in front of you. He can't hide it. He can't fake it. And in that raw exposure, what he feels has the power to completely shift the connection between you and him. Most men will not put it into words. They won't sit you down afterward and explain. Here is what I felt when I released inside you. But if you learn to notice, you'll begin to see the emotions that are hidden behind the act. Feelings like closeness, softness, belonging, even love. These are not things most men openly say, but they absolutely feel them. That's why it matters to understand what is really happening inside a man's mind and body at that exact time. Because when you see it, intimacy looks different. Have you ever noticed how a man's energy changes right after being intimate? Sometimes he becomes softer, more affectionate, or sometimes distant, and you may have wondered what it meant. When a man reaches that point of release, something unusual happens. He surrenders. And that's huge because men live their lives being told to always stay in control. From an early age, they are trained to be the ones who can handle pressure. The ones who don't break down, the ones who don't show tears or too much emotion. So what do? They build up walls. They wear armor. And that armor stays on most of the time, even in relationships, even sometimes in the bedroom. But when he releases, that armor falls. In that second, he can't hold the mask anymore. He can't pretend to be the calm, collected, controlled version of himself. His body forces him into honesty. That instant is pure vulnerability. And that matters because vulnerability is not something men give out freely. It is rare. For many men, the bedroom is one of the very few safe spaces where they can finally let themselves be open without being judged. And when that happens, it leaves a mark. Because a man never forgets who he was vulnerable with. It's not about the act itself. It's about the permission he feels with you to be himself. Not every man feels that vulnerability in the same way. For the man who is emotionally connected to you, the release turns into a deeply trusting moment. He feels safe. He feels like he can hand you a side of himself he doesn't show to the rest of the world. That's when intimacy stops being just physical and turns into a window into who he really is. But if that emotional bond isn't there, the same vulnerability can make him uncomfortable. That's why sometimes you'll notice men pull away right after sex. They go quiet or distant. That isn't always about you. Often it's because the rawness of that moment scared him, or because he didn't feel safe enough to rest in it. For the man who does feel secure, though, that vulnerability becomes almost addictive. It's one of the reasons men keep coming back for physical intimacy, even when they can't explain why. It's not only the pleasure. It's that rare chance of fully letting go, of not having to carry the role of the strong and stoic one, even if just for a minute. Imagine holding the weight of the world every day and then suddenly letting it all drop away in the arms of someone you trust. That's what it feels like for him. And this is where your part becomes powerful. If you answer his vulnerability with warmth, with affection, with acceptance, he links that sense of release to you. You become the one his body and heart associate with safety and surrender. That's not just about sex. That's about emotional connection. It's why men fall so much harder for the women who make them feel secure in their unguarded moments. The next time you're with him, pay attention to what happens afterward. Look closely and you'll see it. The softness in his eyes, the way his body relaxes, the slight change in his voice. That's vulnerability pouring out, and it's one of the most honest sides of him. At the end of the day, men don't fall in love with the woman who excites them the most. They fall in love with the woman with whom they can be vulnerable. And that moment of release is the true test of whether he feels safe enough to let you see him without his armor. One of the most overlooked parts of intimacy is not the climax itself, but what follows. For a man, the release is powerful, but what lingers in the moments after often says more. One of the strongest feelings he may have right then is closeness. Not closeness in distance. You can be lying right beside each other and still feel far apart with the wrong person. This closeness is emotional, almost spiritual. It's the sense of being bonded, like for a brief window, there is no separation between you and him. Part of that comes from biology. When a man releases, his body produces oxytocin, the same bonding hormone that mothers release during childbirth or while nursing their babies. It's nature's glue, the chemical that creates connection. Suddenly, he isn't just a man who experienced pleasure. He's a man who feels tied to the woman beside him. That's why in that moment, what many men want most isn't just sleep or space. It's to hold you, to keep you near. But the strength of that closeness depends on how he already feels about you. If there is no emotional base, the closeness can vanish quickly, sometimes even flip into distance. But if he is truly connected to you, the release only makes that bond stronger. It makes him want to draw you in, to keep skin against skin, to stay wrapped around you, because he doesn't want the feeling to fade. You'll notice it in the little things. The way his hand reaches for yours without thinking, the way he pulls you against his chest, the way his eyes soften when he looks at you. These are his ways of holding on to the connection his body and heart both tell him is real. For many men, that closeness is rare. In everyday life, they are trained to split their focus. Work here, stress there, duties somewhere else. They struggle to stay fully present. But in the moments after release, presence becomes natural. His mind isn't racing. He's not thinking about tomorrow's problems. He's simply there with you. That full immersion in the connection is addictive. It's part of what makes him return. Not just for the act, but for the way you make him feel afterward. And what you do in those moments matters just as much as what happened during the act. If you return his closeness, if you hold him back, look into his eyes, gently touch him, you're telling his nervous system, you're safe, you're wanted, you're not alone. That deepens the bond. On the other hand, if he reaches out and feels you pull away, even without meaning to, it can leave him unsettled. He may wonder if the intimacy was one-sided, if he gave more than he should have, or if the openness he showed wasn't returned. This is why many men describe their most meaningful intimate experiences not in terms of physical sparks, but in how connected they felt afterward. That's the secret. Closeness is the bridge between sex and love. A man may enjoy sex with many, but the woman who makes him feel close afterward leaves her mark. She becomes the one tied to warmth, belonging, and that deep sense of, this is where I want to stay. It's not only about pleasure, it's about presence. Two people suspended in a bubble where the rest of the world falls away. That closeness is what turns intimacy from a short encounter into a bond he keeps coming back to, not just because his body needs release, but because his heart craves connection. There's a word most men never use when talking about intimacy, but it explains why some women stay unforgettable to them. That word is home, and not the walls and roof he lives under, but the feeling of home, the deep sense of safety, comfort, and belonging. Believe it or not, when a man releases inside you, that can be the moment he feels closest to that sense of home. Men spend so much of their lives on the move, striving, achieving, competing, always proving themselves, always on guard. The world demands a lot from them. In many ways, they are always performing. But in that one intimate instant, all of that stops. There is no competition, no goals, no showing off. Just being. And when he feels accepted in that rawness, it feels like sinking into a safe place he doesn't want to leave. For men, the bedroom can either be a stage of performance or a place of peace. With the wrong person, he's still performing, still trying to impress, trying not to fail. But with the right person, that release changes everything. The stage becomes a sanctuary. It stops being about what he's doing and starts being about who he is. Being accepted in that pure state of openness feels like coming home. This is why so many men describe their most powerful, intimate memories not in terms of the act itself, but how they felt after. It wasn't about technique. It was about the atmosphere. Did he feel judged or accepted? Did he feel he had to be perfect, or could he just be himself? That difference is everything. And here's something many women don't know. Men ache for that sense of home, even if they can't put it into words. They may chase success, adventure, even casual encounters. But underneath, there is a deep hunger for belonging. When he experiences that sense of belonging through intimacy, it leaves a mark on him. It tells his body and his mind, this is where I can rest. This is where I can let go. This is where I'm enough. You'll see it in how he behaves afterward. Instead of pulling away, he might linger. Instead of drifting off, he might want to cuddle, to talk, to stay close. It's not only physical closeness, it's that quiet pull to remain in the feeling of home. And if you've ever wondered why some men seem almost addicted to certain women, this is the secret. It's not always about the sex itself. It's about the emotional shelter those women give them. Of course, this doesn't mean every release equals love. For some men, the vulnerability feels too heavy, too fast, and they resist it. They may feel the pull but run from it because it scares them. But for the man who is ready, that sense of home is what deepens his bond. It makes him see you not only as someone he wants, but as someone he belongs with. That's the paradox. Men spend their lives chasing, competing, proving themselves. Yet what melts them most is the moment they don't have to do any of that. The moment they can just collapse into themselves and into you. That's when he realizes it's not only pleasure he craves, it's belonging. So if you've ever wondered why intimacy feels so different with one person compared to another, that's the reason. Pleasure fades quickly, but that sense of home, that stays. And for a man, that feeling is unforgettable. Something else unexpected that a man can feel when he releases inside you is love, or at least a strong wave of affection that can surprise even him. Not every man instantly falls in love in that moment, of course. But when there is already an emotional connection, that physical release can turn up the volume on his feelings. What he usually keeps quiet suddenly feels louder, harder to ignore. Biology plays a role here too. During climax, his body is filled with oxytocin, the hormone scientists call the bonding chemical. It makes him feel more attached, more protective, more affectionate. Even the toughest, most closed-off man can't completely escape it. That's why sometimes after intimacy, a man who rarely opens up might suddenly say something soft like, "You mean a lot to me," or he might hold you in a way that feels different, more gentle. It's not random, it's his biology lining up with his emotions. But here's what matters: that wave of love doesn't come from the act alone. It comes from who he is sharing it with. If the connection is shallow, he may still enjoy the physical part, but the emotional rush fades quickly. If he already cares for you, if he already feels safe and invested, that release amplifies everything. It makes him want to hold tighter. It makes him start to see you not only as someone he desires, but someone he could fall hard for. This is why intimacy can speed up a relationship. Sometimes a man doesn't even realize how deep his feelings are until after moments like this. Suddenly, he's not just thinking about the fun you shared. He's imagining what life would feel like with you long term. That wave of love moves him from the physical into the emotional, without him even meaning for it to happen. And women should understand this. Men don't always show love the way you expect. They may not say the words right away. But if you notice the look in his eyes afterward, the way he touches you with more care, the way he's more present, that's the love hormone speaking. That's him feeling the emotional side, even if he doesn't name it out loud. For the right man, that moment isn't just about satisfying his body, it softens his heart. It reminds him why intimacy isn't just about desire, but about connection. That wave of love is what turns sex into bonding, and bonding into something that can grow into real, lasting love. There's also something primal that wakes up in him right after he releases. And it's not just the sense of satisfaction. It's an instinct, an urge that has been wired into men for thousands of years. In that exposed moment, many men feel a rush of protectiveness. They don't always recognize it, and they almost never say it, but it shows in the way they hold you, the way they check on you, the way they want to be sure you are okay. Intimacy isn't only about taking pleasure, it's also about giving it. And when he has that moment of release, he knows he has opened himself in the deepest way. That awareness often comes with a pull to take care of the person who just shared it with him. He might not put it into words like, "I feel protective over you," but that's exactly what is happening in his biology and in his heart. He feels a duty, a want, to make you feel safe and valued. You might think, "Oh, he's just cuddling me because he's relaxed." But notice the difference. It isn't passive. It's the way his body curves around yours like a shield. It's the way his hand rests on your waist, almost as if to say, "I've got you." It's the way he stays present, even after the physical act is over. Because part of him wants to let you know you're not just an experience, you matter. When a man is truly present with a woman in these moments, he is not only sharing his body, but also sharing his silence, his heartbeat, his unspoken words. He may not always find the right language to explain it, but his actions reveal what words often cannot. The way he holds her closer afterward, the way he runs his fingers gently across her skin, or the way he looks into her eyes without saying a thing. All of these are signs of something deeper than just physical pleasure. They are signs that he feels a bond forming, a quiet connection that makes him feel safe enough to let his guard down. It is not only about lust, even though desire is a part of it. It is about feeling that someone accepts him as he is. For so much of his life, a man feels pressure to perform, to be strong, to always appear in control. But in the soft space of intimacy, he is finally free to just be himself. That is why he may hold her tighter, as if to say without words, "Don't let go of me. Stay here with me." not just in this bed but in life. This closeness creates a memory in his body that lasts beyond that night. It becomes a mark on his heart, something he carries even when he is far away. When a woman responds with trust, when she surrenders her own guard and allows the moment to unfold with openness, something magical happens. The man no longer feels like he is giving just passion. He feels like he is giving his soul. And in return, he feels like he is receiving her soul too. That exchange is not something you can fake, and it is not something that happens with every partner. It is rare, and that is why, when it does happen, it can feel life-changing. Many men may not be able to speak of this out loud. They may joke about intimacy or act as if it is only about the physical, but deep inside, there is a hidden truth. Men are affected emotionally, sometimes even more than they realize. After being with a woman, he may find himself thinking about her in quiet moments, feeling protective over her, or even imagining what life could look like with her. These thoughts may surprise him, but they are born out of the vulnerability he allowed himself to feel in that moment of closeness. The truth is, sex is not only about desire, it is also about healing. A man who feels lost, stressed, or broken by life may find a sense of calm in the arms of a woman who truly cares for him. It is as if her presence washes away his worries, even if only for a little while. Her touch, her softness, her acceptance. These things can reach places inside him that words and logic never could. And once he has experienced this, he may begin to crave it not as a physical act, but as an emotional home, a place of safety that he longs to return to again and again. But it is also true that not every intimate encounter has this depth. Sometimes, if the connection is shallow or forced, he may leave feeling empty or even more lonely than before. This is because his body may have been involved, but his heart was not. He may smile, he may pretend it meant little, but deep inside he knows the difference. The difference between sharing your body and sharing your soul is enormous, and a man feels that contrast even if he cannot put it into words. That is why intimacy can either build him or break him. If he shares himself with someone who uses him or does not truly care, he may start to close off, to build walls, to protect his heart from being touched again. But if he shares himself with someone who honors that gift, he opens wider, he grows braver, and he begins to see love not as a weakness, but as his greatest strength. This is the quiet truth behind the eyes of men, a truth often hidden but deeply alive. Do you want me to keep expanding and continuing in this style until we fully reach your 9,000 character target in one flowing speech? You said continue speech, ChatGPT said. Absolutely. I'll continue the flow, keeping the tone emotional, simple, and slightly rewarded, while expanding so the speech grows richer and longer. Here's the next part of the continuation. When a man begins to see intimacy this way, he also starts to see himself differently. He is no longer just someone who must be tough and unshaken all the time. He starts to realize that true strength is not in hiding his emotions, but in allowing someone close enough to witness them. This is why he may feel a sudden wave of protectiveness after being with a woman he truly cares about. It is not only about protecting her from the world. It is also about protecting the space they have created together, that invisible bond that feels too sacred to be broken. In that silence after love making, when two people are just lying there breathing, a man may find himself more honest than ever before. He may admit things he has never spoken aloud, or he may simply hold her as if she is the only anchor he has in a world that often feels too heavy. These small acts, the closeness, the gentle touch, the unspoken words, they carry more truth than hours of conversation sometimes can. Because in that stillness, masks fall away, and what remains is something pure. This is why intimacy leaves such a mark on him. It shapes how he sees her, how he feels about himself, and how he moves through life. For some men, one powerful moment of closeness can shift the way they view relationships forever. They may suddenly realize that it is not casual, not meaningless, not just an act to pass time. It is a meeting of souls, a quiet merging of two lives, even if only for a night. And that realization can either inspire him to seek more of it or frighten him into pulling away because the depth feels too overwhelming. When he truly values a woman, her presence lingers with him long after the moment is gone. He may hear her laugh in his mind, remember the way she touched him, or feel her warmth, even when she is not near. These memories become part of his private world, something he revisits when life feels empty or cold. He may not confess it, but inside he knows she reached a place no one else had touched. That is why letting go of such a connection can be so painful. It is not just about losing the physical closeness. It is about losing the safe place where he could finally be himself without judgment. And so, for men, intimacy is not a simple act. It is layered with meaning, layered with emotions they often cannot describe. Many will try to cover it with humor, with distance, or with silence, but inside they carry the weight of it. They feel the bond, they feel the vulnerability, and they feel the pull toward the woman who saw them at their rawest and still embraced them. This is something that shapes not only how they love, but also how they heal, how they grow, and how they trust again. For many men, this closeness becomes a mirror. It reflects back parts of themselves they didn't even know existed. When he looks at her after, when he sees her eyes, her smile, her trust, he sometimes sees his own worth through her, and that can be powerful, because in daily life he may feel unnoticed, like his struggles are invisible, his quiet efforts unseen. But in that sacred space, he feels chosen. He feels like who he is, not just what he does, matters. That is why the smallest gestures mean so much. The way she brushes her hand across his chest, the way she falls asleep on his shoulder, the way she laughs softly in the middle of the night. These moments stick in his memory. He may not say it out loud, but later when he is alone, he will think about them. They become reminders that he is not just a man surviving the world, but a man capable of giving and receiving real love. Sometimes this scares him. To feel that deeply is not always easy. He may wonder, what if she leaves? What if I open everything and then I lose her? This fear can make him pull back, act colder, or pretend he does not care. But inside, he knows the truth. He knows she has touched something that cannot be undone. And even if he tries to hide it, even if he walks away, a part of him will always carry her with him. This is why a man may become protective after intimacy. Not only protective of her safety, but also protective of the connection itself. He may not want her to feel like she was only a moment to him, because he knows she was more. He may check in on her, want to spend more time, or hold her longer afterward. These are not just habits. They are signs of how deeply she affected him. And though he may never find the perfect words, his actions whisper what his voice cannot. You matter to me more than you know. And for the woman, when she notices this, when she feels the sincerity in his touch, she understands something unspoken. She sees that the man before her is not only strong, not only protective, but also deeply human, fragile, and in need of love just as much as she is. This realization can transform the relationship, because once both see each other clearly, beyond masks, beyond roles, what they share becomes more than passion. It becomes belonging. This belonging is what men secretly long for. Not just a body to lie beside, but a soul to return to. A place where he does not have to perform, where he does not have to earn love by being useful or tough, but where he is simply accepted for being himself. And when he finds that, he will fight for it. Even if he struggles to express it, even if he makes mistakes along the way, deep in his heart, he knows that kind of intimacy is rare, and losing it would mean losing a part of himself.